ancestors looking down at him from heaven. First of all, man, they would be looking up at you from hell. Every woman has to be demure and quiet. Some women just want to shake ass. Some women want to f guys that they've known for 3 days. Biracial Black women who would eat in a Black group, like fighting for their lives to be the bottom of the food chain and amongst white people. Miss Jessi is low-key the queen of exposed tracks. Why are the tracks always exposed, Jessi? Who looks like the Deliverance kid all grown up? Damn. Was that man difficult to look at? The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives Season 2 was released on May 15th, and since then I've been slogging my way through it. It's kind of unprecedented for it to take me longer than a week to binge a reality television show like this, but there's something rotten at the center of this season of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives that I need to get to the bottom of. Between storylines that seem fabricated, post-show interviews where cast members seem to be regurgitating the same wait till season 3 lines over and over again, and the fourth wall laying in tatters on the floor every other episode, it was just something incredibly uncanny valley about this season. It almost felt like a parody of a reality show, or like a reality show that you would see playing in the background on 30 Rock or something. But of course, I still watched it and I'm here to talk to you about it. I watched all 10 episodes and I want to talk about the different characters on the show, like the different personalities who appear on the show, the story arcs that we go through this season, why a lot of it felt very manufactured, and where I think we as, and if you're watching this channel, you probably agree with me on this, but like we as like progressive minded, left leaning people can go from here with a show like Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I'm also doing this get ready with me style because I want to. I'm going to start with probably the most controversial character on the series so far. This is a tier milky skin toner. I'm trying it as a skin prep step because I've heard the booty gurus talking about using a milky toner before you do your base. And I want to see if it actually makes my base lay any better. I want to talk about the girl who was on everybody's tongues and minds in the first half of this season, and that is Miss Jennifer Affleck. One thing about me is I'm going to refilm a video, okay? I'm going to film a video where I am talking for hours, and then 45 minutes later, I'm going to be like, wait, none of that made any sense, and it's going to take me 2.5 years to edit. And I've actually filmed this get ready with me about Secret Lives of Mormon Wives before. And in that version of this video, I talked ad nauseum about Jen and how bad I feel for her and how I think her husband is her worst enemy and I just want her to be free, like, but she's never going to be free because she has an allegiance to Mormonism and an allegiance to losers that keeps her stuck where she is. This is the About Face Performer Foundation, best foundation I've ever used and only one that has ever matched me. But since I did that filming, I have done some social media perusing, and it's not that my opinion has changed completely. It's just that I think the gulf between what's real and what's fake for Jen, like that was a big storyline this season, is whether or not Jen is a liar. And I think the gulf between what's real and what's fake for her is a lot bigger than she would like to make it seem. If you watch the first season of the show, her husband, Zach, went to medical school in New York City, and they were talking about how they were moving across the country and they were going to start their life in New York and they were so excited. And she chose her family over mom talk because Zach was trying to get her to quit mom talk. And like, one thing I will say, throughout this season, Zach is not trying to get Jen to like quit doing social media. He doesn't want her to stop getting 6-figure brand deals that pay for his gambling habits and his medical school endeavors. No, he wants her to quit mom talk. Like, he wants her to leave the friends who are telling her that she deserves better than him behind so that he can isolate her and keep her to himself. Her story arc last season was, do I choose my marriage or do I choose mom talk? She chooses her marriage. And then at the beginning of this season, inexplicably, I don't know what happened in between last season and this season, but we meet back up with them and they are separated. Jen is living on her own back in Utah, and Zach has just flown back across the country to be with her and to try and basically like fight for her and fight for their marriage or whatever. And you see them kind of like really quote unquote working on their relationship. He's basically like subordinating himself to her. But there's an aspect of it that feels super fake because it feels like both him and Jen. There's a lot of people this season who it just feels like they are very hyper aware of the presence of the cameras and like how they came off last season and what people's perception of them is based off of how they came off last season. And they're working to the best of their ability to either rectify people's perception of them from last season or maintain the positive perception that people had of them from last season. Zach, it feels like, saw how much everybody fucking hated him last season because he's the worst and he remains the worst, but we'll talk about that very soon. And he was like, oh, I have to like make things better. So his storyline this year is basically like going back to Utah, begging for Jen's forgiveness and going on this redemption arc to show that he's actually a good guy and like a really supportive husband and he loves his wife so much and blah, blah, whatever. I see right through it. Like, I think it's bullshit. I don't think he's a supportive husband. I don't think he's a good guy. I think he is just like obsessed with internet perception. And I genuinely think like he's her worst enemy. And like I know this and I feel this, like as much of this is a parasocial relationship, I see so much familiar in their relationship because I've dated a lot of people who, for better or for worse, are jealous of me. And that's not me saying that I'm hot shit and like that I'm the most amazing person on the planet. I'm always confused when they are. I'm like, what the fuck do you think I have that you don't, that you're going to be jealous of me? That being said, I have dated a lot of people who are jealous of me and who dislike like themselves or their place in the world and who look at me and perceive me to have this like level of ease or comfort or luck or whatever it is, and then project that onto me and then try and like tear me down and isolate me based off of that. And I see that in Zach. He's coming back to Utah basically claiming like, oh, I love you so much. I really want to work on our marriage. I really want to fix this. And she's like, seems at the beginning of the season to be like 1 foot out of the door. She's like, we went to New York, it didn't work out. Now I'm choosing mom talk over Zach. But then as soon as Zach shows up, she starts having conflict with the mom talk girls again. You have to understand who the common denominator is, okay? Because the common denominator is not Jen. The common denominator is Zach. As soon as Zach shows up, she has strife with her friends. And he's going to Jessi and Demi to apologize initially. But then we start this whole story arc of, well, Jen's a liar. Because apparently when he went to go talk to Jessi and Demi to apologize to them, because it's part of his redemption arc, is to apologize to her friends and like get on a good page with them so that she can feel more comfortable doing both social media and being a part of Mom Talk. I genuinely don't know like how this conversation starts or why it becomes like a topic of conversation, because I cannot think of an instance where my significant other and my best friends would be talking shit about me. But you know, I'm friends with people of value. Zach goes to them to talk and they're like, he says that Jen is like lying about some stuff or whatever. So then Jessi and Demi are like, well, this is what she told us about you. And he's like, well, that never happened. This is what she told me about this situation. And they're like, well, that never happened. So they like get together and like are both separately, Jessi and Demi and Zach are both going to Jen and being like, well, what's the truth? Why are you lying? What's going on? Having been in an emotionally abusive relationship and having had people like come to me and be like, well, why are you lying about this XYZ? I think it's important to state that like not all lies are created equal. Does Jen lie? Yes. She does. She should have the like comfort and safe space with her friends to be able to tell them things about her relationship and not like have them run back to her husband and tell him exactly what she said. And I think, of course, if she tells her friends something that happened between her and her husband who doesn't like to take accountability for things, of course he's going to be like, well, that didn't happen, or it didn't happen like that. Like, she's speaking from a place of her feelings and how it felt for her versus like the way that he's experiencing the situation. Her whole story arc was really difficult for me to watch because you really get the sense at the beginning that she's like almost out. Like, she's starting to see the light, she's starting to understand, she's talking about like divorce and like if she wants to be in this marriage anymore. And there's a moment where they're like sitting by the side of the road for some reason, having a conversation, and he gets up and walks away when she starts crying, because he's basically like telling her, he's trying to make it so that she, in her head, she's like, like her friends are the ones in the way of their relationship. It's not him. He's trying to be nice. He's trying to be good. But her friends just keep holding on to this like negative perception of him as this controlling, evil guy. And they're like talking shit about him with her. He's like, well, if I had friends who were doing that kind of stuff to my partner, who were saying those kinds of things to you, then I would drop them. She's like, well, I'm not going to drop them. And she's like, I still want to have a conversation. Like, she's like, that's not an option, but I still want to have this conversation. As soon as she says that, he gets mad, gets up, and walks away. He's like, I'm not going to be on TV with you, like, creating this perception of me that I'm a bad guy and like all of this. I'm not doing this. And she says to him, like, if you're not willing to work on this, like, if you're not willing to have a conversation with me about this, then I don't know how much longer I can be in this marriage. So it feels like Jen Affleck has a foot out of the door. Like, she is starting to see the light and get away from this man who really, truly, I think, is jealous of her and hates her and wishes that he could like live carefree in his life the way that she does. But then the Halloween party happens. Oh, also, like, at this point, she's also found out that she's pregnant. So like, if she's leaving, if she was thinking about leaving before, it's not happening now because she's Mormon. She's not getting an abortion. And I've seen people say that like Zach baby trapped her. I do think so, because he needs a breadwinner. Like, he's not going to go get a job. He needs somebody who's going to work for the money. And she makes a lot of money. And her money pays his way, pays for his lifestyle. So I do believe that he baby trapped her. I do believe that. Men do that a lot. Me personally, having just been in a relationship with someone who I'm sure would have baby trapped me if they could have, like, I just have to say, like, me personally, the Planned Parenthood would be seeing me. Okay. The last thing you will catch me do is have a baby by a man who I don't think has an impeccable character. Like, if I want a baby that bad, I'll go get this one taken out and go put in a different one and then have a baby all on my own. Like, that's fine. I do not need a man to have a baby. All I need is the baby juice, and then I can make the baby myself. I can even adopt. If I want a baby that bad, I can go and find a baby. But she's Mormon, so she finds out she's pregnant and it's like, it's a wrap. They're staying together. She's going to like move forward. And this whole time, like, Demi and Jessi are being like, well, why are you lying to us? So they're like creating this narrative that she's fake and she's a liar, and the other girls are buying into it, and she's starting to get more and more isolated. Or Demi decides for some reason that Jen is going to be her nemesis this season and really starts going after her. And Layla, being the follower that she is, joins the bandwagon. Mayci and Mikayla are off in their own world. Taylor, again, off in her own world. So like, and Whitney is trying desperately to get back in the group. So really the only people who could have supported her are like not paying attention. Jen is isolated. This Jen is a liar storyline is really like taking wings and flying. Zach is convincing her that her friends are the problem, not him. Like, he's like, I'm the best husband ever. I'm so amazing. Your friends just hate me for no discernible reason. And he's also starting to spin this like story. He's like, why are you running with this "we're related to Ben Affleck" thing? Like, why did you start that rumor? You know that we're not related to him. Nobody ever told you that. And it's like, I know they told her. I do not believe that she just pulled this out of her ass. I know 100% that they told her that. And he's like, I don't understand why you're lying about that. That's such a stupid thing to lie about. Then he goes and talks to Jessi and to me about it. And he's like, well, yeah, she lied about the Ben Affleck thing. So what else is she lying about? You don't want to be with a man who would talk shit to other people about you. Talk shit to people who are to your friends about you. He can do whatever he wants with his friends and like in his relationships. But like, you're going to my friends talk shit about me. That's very bitch made. Zach is the enemy. So he's feeding into and starting the Jen is a liar narrative. He's the one who went to Demi and Jessi and gave them the idea that Jen was a liar. And then they ran with it and they said Jen is fake, Jen's a liar. And then it just spiraled from there. Like, he is her worst enemy. So at the Halloween party, she's pulled up on stage while Jessi and Demi's husband and like an extra Chippendales dancer are there. I'm even doing the Utah accent, Chippendales. They're like doing this like Chippendales inspired dance. And she's initially like having a great time because Jen, I know in her heart of hearts, like if she wasn't raised Mormon, she would be at the club every weekend. Like if she wasn't raised Mormon, she would be a stripper. Like she's a carefree person. And Zach is a wet blanket loser. So she seems to be having a great time. And then you start to see Zach's facial expression and he's clearly upset. And everybody at the party can tell that he's upset. And it's really awkward because he's so mad. And then they leave. When they leave, he says to her, he's like, Jessi and Demi are trying to ruin our marriage. Like they are trying to ruin our marriage. And she's like, oh no, oh fuck, basically. So then you find out that like Jessi and Demi had cleared the Chippendales thing with Jen. She was like, yeah, that would be so fun. That would be so funny. We need it. It would be exposure therapy for us. I absolutely want to do this. She didn't tell Zach about it. Like she told them that she had told him about it, but she didn't tell him about it, probably because she knew that he was a scary freak and he wasn't going to be normal about it. And so he didn't like it. And then he goes to Jessi and Demi's husbands and he's like, how dare you dance all up on my wife without her consent? And they're like, we talked to our wives about it. They said she was fine with it. Like we wouldn't have done that if we didn't think that she was fine with it. So then Zach is like, she might have been fine with a dance, but she wasn't fine with you like touching her and grinding all up on her. Like maybe she thought you were going to dance in front of her, but not on her. So then it's being spun. Now, again, having been in an emotionally abusive relationship, that person like sucks you into their version of events and their reality so thoroughly because he starts running with this story of she consented to a performance, she didn't consent to being touched. And then Jen runs with it immediately. And she's like, yeah, I consented to a performance. I didn't consent to being touched. Because she doesn't want him to be mad at her, especially her now being pregnant. Their divorce is basically like off the table. Like if it's gonna happen, it would be an absolute tragedy to both her and Zach. Like it would be the last possible course of action. And I think also most of her actions in this show are motivated by the fact that she doesn't want people to be mad at her. She wants people to like her and she wants everybody to be happy and she wants everyone to get along. And sometimes she does things that are bitchy and stupid and like lashes out and starts talking shit about something that somebody else does. But I think one thing I've noticed about her is that she's not like instigating. She's very reactive. Like if she feels backed into a corner, she's gonna lash out, but she's not like bringing things to the table and being like, hey girls, let's talk about this. So she starts running with that narrative too. And then she's like, how dare they do this? Like they're trying to ruin my marriage. She fully joins in on Zach's version of events, jumps on his bandwagon. She's in his reality, and his reality is that Demi and Jessi are bad friends because they just want her to be a miserable divorced hag. Like they are miserable divorced hags. And she has a man and they're sealed in the temple. And if she gets divorced, she's going to be I'm like all this stupid shit. So she decides that she's going to go confront Jessi at like a cupcake shop or whatever, not before she claims that she was raised in the hood. To which even Zach says, you were born in Provo, Utah. There's no hood in Utah. That's not how Utah works. She like puts on this stupid little black accent and is like, I was raised in the hood. Ugh. I've been born in Provo, but I was raised in the hood. These people know how to pull a black scent out of their ass as soon as they want to seem aggressive. So she goes to confront Jessi, and she's like brought this rumor onto the show that Demi was behaving inappropriately while they were in Italy with this guy named Marciano from Vanderpump Villa. I don't know who that is. I've never seen Vanderpump Villa. I've watched Vanderpump Rules. I don't give a fuck about any of this. It's basically downhill from there because her pregnancy is really difficult. She's experiencing prenatal depression and she's gone after that. I think that's her last scene, or her second to last scene, because then all the girls are supposed to go to, I think that's when they're supposed to go to Arizona for Mayci's thing. And she doesn't go to the trip. And Demi is like, oh, it's because she's scared of me. And she knows that I'll set her on fire and I'll like wear her ass out when it's because she's like really sick because she's pregnant, and she's also like feeling suicidal because of her prenatal depression and the fact that all of her friends have seemed to turn on her. The production basically like puts in a little black screen, and it's like, we decided we're not going to film with Jen anymore, but Zach is holding down the fort. Zach is super dad. Zach just loves his daughter, and he's taking care of his daughter, and he's taking care of Jen, and he's getting her to eat, and he's making her feel safe and comfortable, and like life is worth living. And he's going to Whitney and letting Whitney know, like, Demi sent out a cease and desist to get Jen to stop talking about the Marciano thing. Like, I didn't really believe it before, but now that there's a cease and desist, I just don't know. And it's just like so obvious and so transparent to me, but there's also only so much that I can do for a woman like Jen. There's only so much empathy and sympathy that I can feel for someone like her, because the thing that's hard about it is that I recognize on the one hand, like, she's in what, at least from the outside, like if none of their storylines are fabricated and they really did get separated, because like Demi and Jen are still like beefing apparently, and Demi's husband has claimed in TikTok comments that like Jen and Zach's entire storyline this season is fabricated, and she was like begging him to lie about the separation so that they could get their contracts renewed for the third season. And like, it's just like none of it was real. So if none of it was real, then I don't feel anything for her, because she likes that man. Like, she seems to be really excited by him. But if it is real, then it's like, this is a woman who's in an abusive relationship, who is with a man who worked very hard and successfully managed to isolate her from the few friends that she had in the world, and who, as soon as he saw that she was slipping through his fingers, impregnated her, and as soon as she was in like a vulnerable emotional position, like positioned himself as her savior, because that's what people like that thrive on. They need you to be isolated. They need you to be alone. They need you to be far away from people that you care about. And they need you to be at your lowest constantly, or like in these cycles of being really low and really down on yourself and really feeling like you have no one but them in the entire world, so that they can control you and they can make you do whatever they want. And they can also make you reliant on them because you're so grateful to them for being the only person who is there for you at your lowest. So to me, it's just so clear how like calculated all of this was, from him coming back and doing this redemption arc, to him starting the narrative that she was a liar, to he gets Demi and Jessi to turn against her, and then all the other girls turn against her, and then she's pregnant and she's alone and she's depressed and she can't even film anymore because she's so fucking depressed. And there he is at home, ready to support her, ready to watch their children when she's feeling sick. She's like, wow, I'm so lucky to have this guy by my side, until the next thing that she does that's a little too successful, that he doesn't like, or the next group of friends that she meets that take her away from him, that he doesn't like because they're taking her away from him. And like, she's never going to be able to have a life outside of him as long as she's with him. But that is also like kind of an ideal for marriage in Christian evangelical communities. So there's part of me that recognizes that situation that Jen is in. And I find it to be really difficult to watch because it's triggering and it's sad. And I feel bad for her. And she's happy and fulfilled, married and with kids, whatever. But like, that man is so, to me, again, assuming that like everything that happens on the show is an accurate reflection of reality, who is like this man who is emotionally abusive and incredibly manipulative and controlling. And then I go, but she likes it. She likes being a trad wife. She likes being married to this ugly ass white man. She likes, like, I think something that is difficult about this show this season is that it feels like very plain to me how much like the women on this show are like shills of white supremacy, all being crushed under the boot of white supremacy and the expectations. Like, Jen, to me, seems like the type of person who anything that would bring her closer to normative whiteness is something that is good for her in her mind, regardless of like what impact it actually has on her mental health and well-being. And I say that because I saw this one particular TikTok that Zach alleges was a quote-unquote trend, where he's basically like pretending to be his ancestors looking down at him from heaven. First of all, man, they would be looking up at you from hell. And it says like, my ancestors watching me ruin my pure white bloodline because he had babies with Jen. First of all, Jen is a white Latina. Second of all, your pure white bloodline, if that's what a pure white bloodline looks like, I think it needed some diversity in it, because them babies are cute. He ain't have nothing to do with them being cute. God, I love this blush so fucking much. This is the About Face cheek blush brush in Jumpstart. Fucking love it. Love it. Okay. Every time I put it on properly, I get so excited. Okay. And then he said in the he was apparently like responding to people's comments and being like, I told Jen not to like tell me to do TikTok trends that are going to get me canceled. And I'm like, first of all, is this a trend? What are you talking about? This is a trend. And second of all, this was her idea. She told you to do this. She thought it's funny that you're ruining your quote unquote pure white bloodline. Like, what the fuck is wrong with her? So it's a thing of like, people contain multitudes and every situation has nuance. There's only so far as I can feel bad for her, because I'm like, this is your prize. You got picked by the perfect white man who is bringing you closer to whiteness. Go live that life. And she doesn't seem upset about it. They've, based off of her Instagram, they've worked through all the problems that they had while they were on the show, and everything's fine now, even though she was sobbing uncontrollably when she found out she was pregnant with her third child. Like, it's so confusing to me to understand what's true and what's false about this storyline with Jen and Zach, and about all of the storylines on this season. Like, there's just something that doesn't smell right about a lot of the storylines from this season. And Jen and Zach's was the first indication for me, because I went on her Instagram, and for their baby moon, they went to Las Vegas, and she was brought up on stage at the Chippendales show. And he ostensibly was in the audience watching his pregnant wife get danced on by the Chippendales dancers. So it's like, what's going on actually? Like, what's the truth? What part of this is entertainment and what part of this is like not? Like, it's just like, I don't know. It's so weird to me. It's like, oh, it's disrespectful to your marriage for two men that you and your husband know that you're friends with to dance on you in your friend's private home, but it's not disrespectful to your marriage for that to happen on stage at a public show. It's really confusing to me, and I don't fully understand what's going on with Jen and like where the line between truth and untruth is. One thing I will say is that like the best case scenario for me personally for her and Zach is that like it seems like for a long time her compass kind of like her self-worth was attuned to Zach. Like everything that she thought she was worth was based off of like whether Zach approved of what she was doing, and based off of the fact that like Zach chose her, and she got this like blonde, pale white man with this like perfect chosen ass family, and they have great standing in the church, and they got married in the temple, and like all of this, whatever. And so like in season 1, she seems like this meek little baby, basically, who's under the thumb of her husband because all of her validation is coming from her husband, as Mormon doctrine teaches her. Like after she leaves her father's home, her source of validation should come from her husband. Once the show happened, it seemed she could see how like popular she was and how many people like her and how many people support her in opposition to her husband. And so she kind of started to gain like a sense of self-worth more based off of the outside validation of people on the internet and like fans and all of that, as opposed to based off of Zach. And what Zach was trying to do this season was recalibrate her validation system so that she could start getting it from him again instead of getting it from people outside of him. And part of doing that is to isolate her from all of her friends. That's Jen. I'm not really going to talk about her. Well, I might like mention different aspects of her story arc as we go through the video. So moving on, we are going to talk about the newcomer this season, who is Miranda. Miranda shows up in the first episode basically on her knees begging for the girls to take her back into mom talk. Miranda was implicated in the swinging scandal, which is basically the entire reason why the show exists. Like Taylor did that live about how all of the mom talk girlies, or a lot of the mom talk girlies, I don't think really anybody featured in the show is one of these people, but how they were like quote unquote soft swinging together. Her best friend Miranda, or her best friend at the time, Miranda, was one of the main people who was a part of that scandal. So instead of like corroborating anything that Taylor said, Miranda and her husband at the time, Chase, basically just like didn't talk about it and then like left Montauk and left like that whole situation. Miranda and her then husband ended up, they like went off together to like work on their marriage because, so just like a quick synopsis for you if you don't know what happened, like Taylor Frankie Paul basically is like the main bitch on the show, and she revealed on a TikTok live that like all the girls of Mom Talk, like these ultra Mormon influencers who like gyrate on the internet together, would like have these crazy house parties where they would get drunk and like swap partners, so swap husbands or whatever. So while they were doing this soft swinging thing, Miranda's husband started to catch feelings for Taylor, and Taylor was not interested in him. But instead of saying anything to Miranda, she just kind of like kept it to herself. And then the husband came clean, and then basically like Taylor and Miranda stopped being friends. The soft swinging thing is also the reason that Taylor's first marriage fell apart, because she started to see one of the guys who she was swinging with, like who she would sleep with during the soft swinging, outside of it. Like one of the rules was that you can only like do it together. So she started to see him outside of it, and they were like planning on leaving their spouses for each other. They were having like a full-blown affair, which was against the rules and like not right. It never ended up panning out. Like they never ended up getting together ultimately, but she got divorced. Taylor got divorced from her first husband, and after a little while, Miranda ended up getting divorced from her ex-husband Chase, the guy who was in love with Taylor. I hope I explained all that right. So like first episode, Miranda shows up, and everyone, including me, was like, who is this bitch? And what is she doing here? She's just here for clout, which, yeah, sure, whatever, like come for clout, like who gives a fuck? But she like her and Taylor hashed things out in the first episode. She's like, I'm sorry for abandoning you after the soft swinging thing, I just was so ashamed. And Taylor's like, I'm sorry for putting you out there like that and like exposing all of your personal business. I just was like going through a lot at the time. And they kind of decide that they're gonna like test the waters and see how they feel about each other moving forward. All the girls in Mom Talk are a little bit wary of Miranda because they're like, you just want to be a part of this now because we're making a lot of money. It's like, yeah, I do. And so they're gonna basically like give her a quote unquote trial run and see if she's allowed to be back in Mom Talk. They don't, I guess they like don't want to get burned again. I enjoy Miranda. She's probably like one of, if not my favorite from the season so far, just because she seems really grounded. She seems really kind, and she seems like one of the few girls who's like a really good friend, even though it's clear that she's like joining now to kind of like get in on the like lucrativeness of being a part of this TV show. There's something about her that feels more genuine than, for example, Whitney, who voluntarily left Mom Talk last season and spends this whole season like scheming in the background so that she can get back in and just like saying whatever so that they'll accept her again. Miranda, to me, seems very genuine about her desire to be back in Mom Talk and her like kindness to the rest of the girls in Mom Talk. She was also born 3 days before me, like exactly 3 days before me. So we basically have the same birth chart except for like 2 placements. Like she's an Aries sun, Capricorn moon, and I'm a Taurus sun, Pisces moon. But that's like really the only difference in our charts. And I love that. I know she's a real ass bitch, so I appreciate her. I enjoy her. I also like her, and I wanted to talk about her after talking about Jen because I feel like she was the only one who is really like the supportive, non-judgmental friend that Jen needs. When you're in a relationship like the one that Jen portrayed to be in on the show, you need to have friends who are going to be like very unconditionally supportive of you. You can come to them and be like, well, this thing just happened. And they can be like, that was fucking weird. Or this thing just happened. They're like, okay. But they're not going to constantly be like going to the person that you're with and like, well, ask it, well, so-and-so said this. What do you say about that? And then coming back to you and saying, well, I just talked to your husband about that. And he said that you actually did this. And this is what the reality of the situation is. Like, you just need someone who's going to listen and not be like judge you, and who you can like tell your feelings about your relationship and know that like they're not going to take it back to that other person, that person that you're with. And Miranda was that person for her. And I really enjoyed that. And I really appreciated that aspect. And I felt like she gave really good advice the whole season. Anybody who asked her like for an opinion or for some advice, I feel like she gave really good advice, and she just was like very balanced about it. She was like, look, you can do whatever you want, but like these are the things that came up when I was in a similar situation. So I just want you to keep this stuff in mind, you know. She's one of the ones who is like not super churchy. And I've noticed that I tend to like the cast members who are not like as in it more. Like I don't think she's fully left the church. I don't know if she's gotten like unsealed or whatever, but she mentions in one episode that like the main thing that she likes about Mormonism is like the basic Christian values that come along with it. And I really relate to that because that's kind of the same thing that I have about Catholicism. I was baptized Catholic. For the rest of my life, I'll probably be Catholic, and barring some like great schism or like massive change in doctrine or something, you know, like that's how I was raised. There's things about it that I like, there's things about it that I don't like. The main thing is I just don't give them money. Like, yeah, I just don't give them money. Like, I don't really see a point in giving a $1 billion entity like that my own personal money when I know that they have like issues. There's like major stances that the church has that I don't agree with. And they could use that money to like further action on those stances. So I really with Miranda. There's not really much to say about her because she doesn't really have a story arc this season. She's mostly just there like trying to get her foot in the door and like get the girls to want her to be a part of Mom Talk. And like me personally, I hope they decide that she can join because I think she's fun. I think she's pretty. And also, she's a Democrat. So, going from Miranda to the next kind of controversial character from this season, we have the doll herself, Miss Taylor Frankie Paul. Taylor is chaos embodied, but I find her to be so entertaining. And it's like that's why she is the leader of the group. Her story arcs this season are that she is trying to figure out if she wants to be in this relationship with Dakota anymore because they're having like a lot of fights. At the beginning of the season, like first episode or second episode, last season, someone had submitted a confession to Mayci's. Mayci is another one of the cast members. She has this thing called Sinner Sundays. Someone had submitted a Sinner Sundays confession to Mayci's box and been like, I see Taylor posting with Dakota. I just want her to know, like, around the time they started dating, me and him were hooking up. And Taylor went to Dakota and she was like, is this true? Like, is this really happening? And he denied it. And so at the beginning of the season, she meets up with the girl and the girl tells her, like, yeah, all of this is true. She gives her her phone and she's like, look at these text messages. Like, this is all true. We were together. We were hooking up. And Taylor, to me, seems like the type of person who it's like, she doesn't even really, she probably wouldn't have given a fuck that they hooked up or that they were like together. It was just like, why lie about it? Because he lied about it and lied for so long and like didn't tell her the truth until there was uncontrovertible until there was proof basically staring him in the face. Because of all of that, she is like, the trust is broken in the relationship. Like, I don't trust him anymore. And she's really hung up on this idea that like he was going to see this girl during the day. Like, he would go on dates with her and hang out with her during the day and then like go to her house to hook up after their dates. And then at night, Taylor would send him a "you up" text, and he would come to Taylor's house at night and hook up with her. She's like, he would come to my house, me, wake up, go for a walk with this girl, go hang out with her all day, and then come to my house that night and me again. That's really bothersome and really hurtful to her because she feels like she was the quote unquote night girl. Like she wasn't good enough to be taken out. And like he probably wouldn't have decided to be with her if she hadn't gotten pregnant. And there's also a thing that I feel like ends up being underexplored in the season, which is that the girl who Dakota was seeing during this time that he was like lying to Taylor about says that he told her that he was only seeing Taylor like for clout and he didn't actually really like her that much. So Taylor's exploring this season, like kind of, she's opening up about the troublesome relationship she has with her family, but also like with her biological father. Her biological father like was not there for most of her childhood. She met him once, I think she says, for like 5 minutes when she was 4 years old, and she's never seen him again. And so she has a lot of abandonment issues because of that, and also like issues just feeling like not chosen and not prioritized by men in her life. And when you meet her stepfather, it's like, well, yeah, she's got issues with men. Like every man in her life sucks. So she goes to Dakota with this, and he finally like admits like, yeah, I was seeing this girl. Their relationship is basically never the same from that point. There's a moment during the season that has gone kind of viral where like she goes to a barbecue, and if I'm remembering correctly, her family invites Dakota without telling her. And so she's just confronted with this man who she's literally just broken up with. And her entire family except her sister pretty much is like, why don't you just give him a chance? Like, you're so judgmental. Why won't you just forgive him? He's trying his best. Like, and they're like yelling at her. And her stepdad says to her, he's like, well, you're talking about how you only knew him for 2-3 days, and then you were inviting him over to have sex at your house. What does that say about you? Like, the purity culture that is rampant in this society is so insidious that even I think all of these girls, if they had not been raised in such, I mean, just being 100% honest, I think like Taylor, with a lot of the issues that she has with herself and with her self-esteem and with just the way that she is naturally, like she's naturally a very spunky, very forward, very outspoken person, is kind of like a toddler from The Sims. Like, she's chaotic and hectic. And if she wasn't raised in such a rigid conservative community that expects her to be like Miss Manners 24/7, I think a lot of the issues that she has with her self-esteem and her self-image and feeling like she's not a good woman and not like a worthwhile woman, I think a lot of those problems that she has would not be as big of problems as they are. But she was raised in Mormonism and she still participates in Mormonism. And so she's constantly striving for this ideal of womanhood that is unattainable for her because it's unattainable for a lot of women. And it's unrealistic to expect every woman to be one specific way. Like, every woman has to be demure and quiet and loving and forgiving and putting their family first and like all this stuff. Some women just want to shake ass. And some women want to guys that they've known for 3 days. Like, it's okay to be that kind of woman too. You really get to see through her family, like meeting her family, how she's internalized a lot of this like low self-worth and low self-esteem, and she like turns it in on herself. Because as soon as her stepdad says that to her, she bursts into tears and she's like, I know I'm trash. Like, I know I'm a horrible fucking person too. You don't have to keep saying that to me. Like, you don't have to keep reminding me of that. She really thinks she's a bad person for sleeping with this man who she barely knew and who she wasn't in like an official relationship with. And I think she probably thinks she's a bad person for like being a sexual being and having sexual feelings, but she's just going to keep doing it because she wants to, you know. And it's like, it's easier to have sex than it is to be abstinent. Like, it just is, especially when you're young, hot, thin, and rich. There's a reason that Taylor is the girl who started Mom Talk. There's a reason that she's the center of the show, that she is the one who everybody wants to come for, because she's funny and she's entertaining and she doesn't take shit from people. And you can't say that about a lot of the girls on this cast. So throughout the season, her and Dakota are trying to figure out if they're going to do this relationship or not. And I'm not going to lie to you, after a while, I got bored. I was like, y'all let me know what the decision is and I'll be over here. Because like, they're still posting TikToks together. They probably still have sex. Like, I don't have any investment in like the will they won't they of Taylor and Dakota, because I don't think they should be together in the first place. And I think she's right that there would not be a relationship that they're fighting for. They would not be quote unquote like in love with each other if they hadn't had that baby. I'm not going to say that anybody's baby shouldn't exist, because I'm not in the business of doing that. And I don't even really believe that. Like, if a baby is wanted, people want to give birth, if people want to have children, then they should be able to have those children. And he's loved and cared for and he's adorable. And I think it's good that, like, I just think that it could and should have been one of those situations where it's like, oh, I'm pregnant with your baby now. Well, let's co-parent as best as we can. You know, it didn't have to be, well, I'm pregnant with your baby now. Should you be the love of my life? Like, should we be together forever? And I think they're really like fighting for this and keeping it going, probably because they have good chemistry, and B, because they have this baby together. I think Taylor deserves better than Dakota, but I think Taylor needs to believe that Taylor deserves better than Dakota. Because Dakota, I'm not gonna lie, like, he is kind of scary to me. I made a TikTok about this. I think he looks like Ted Bundy. I think he's a loser. I think he's weird. I watched a clip from Mayci's interview on the Vial Files where she's talking about how he will just like ruin things for her. Like he'll just put her in it. He'll know that she has a big day coming up and then start a fight with her, get her in a bad mood, and then she'll not want to do any of the things that she's supposed to do that day. So like there's press stuff that the girls on the show were supposed to do that Taylor just doesn't show up for because her and Dakota got into a fight the day before and she can't go anymore because she's so upset. He knows how to trigger her and how to push her buttons. And I'm not buying this like, oh shucks, I'm just a former addict trying my best to make my way in this life. And once again, I'll say, I don't think we focused enough on the fact that like he said that he was only sleeping with her for the clout. Like he was only with her because he wanted her to post him on social media so that he could get clout and get famous. And I'm sure he is super excited now that he gets to be on this TV show and get the checks from this TV show. I don't think that they are good for each other. And I think that she deserves better than him. And I wish that she could like wake up and see that she deserves better than Dakota. That's really like the only thing that I have to say about that whole story arc and the like continuation of it, because having a baby with someone doesn't mean that you guys have to be together. Especially she spent the entire first season of the show refusing to marry him, which I really commend her for, because then she would be financially and legally tied to him instead of being able to just like break up with him when she realized that he was lying about the girl that he was hooking up with before. So like good on her for not marrying him. Now like let's move on. Let's go find a guy who's actually like on your level, worth your time, worth your energy. But that's a theme on this whole show. I don't think any of these women are married to men who are on the same level as them, except Mayci and maybe Mikayla. But we're going to get to them. So that's kind of her arc for the beginning of the season, is that she is trying to figure out if she wants to be with Dakota. Spoiler alert, they decide that they're going to break up and not be a romantic relationship anymore, but they're going to work on co-parenting their child, which I think is the best decision overall, and I hope that they stick to that. Her other arc is that she is stirring up in mom talk. Part of me feeling like this drama is a little bit fabricated is that after Jen leaves, Demi no longer has a target. And so Taylor like comes in and fills that spot almost immediately. I saw this when it was happening. I think around like Thanksgiving, they were all beefing on Instagram about how Taylor was presenting at the CMAs and none of the mom talk girls publicly congratulated her or commented on her post about it. And then they all started posting like screenshots of their group chat of them all being like, congratulations, Taylor, we love you, Taylor, and like different text messages that they had sent her. And she was making a big stink about how nobody was like acknowledging the win for her publicly. So then Demi gets really, really mad and like won't let go of this because she's like, Taylor's always stirring up trouble. Like Taylor's always making problems for us. She's always bringing negative attention to mom talk, and she never thinks about the consequences of her actions. And we are going to get into Demi, and we are going to get into Demi very soon. I think that's true. Like Taylor has Twitter fingers. Like she will just type something, send it out, not think about it. Like, and it doesn't bother her. And she almost has this expectation that like people will get over things as quickly as she gets over things. It seems like she swallows a lot, especially like seeing the type of family that she grew up in and seeing like how her mom talks to her and how her stepdad talks to her. Like it feels like she just like swallows a lot and takes a lot and expects everybody else to be able to do that too. And it's like when you like grow up in a dysfunctional family like that, where you're just expected to just like get over things because your parents don't want to talk about them anymore. Like, yeah, you can have those expectations of other people, but at some point in your life, you have to learn that like not everybody is going to feel that way. So in the back half of the season, Taylor and Demi are beefing, and Demi, we'll get to that when we get to that. The one thing that I love about Taylor this part of the season is that she's really willing to stand on business. She's like, honestly, like it is bitchy, but it's like, if I'm not sorry, I'm not going to apologize, and I will only apologize when I understand why I'm apologizing and like what I should be sorry for. And it leaves kind of like a stain. Like, if you're not sorry, don't apologize, and don't apologize until you are sorry and you do actually feel bad. So like, I appreciate that about her. That being said, I do think she's very wild. I do think it's very wild to like go on Instagram and be like, nobody congratulated me, when like you're in group chats with those people. Like, you have their phone numbers. You know them for real. What am I supposed to do looking at your Instagram story? Except go to their pages and be like, how dare you do this to Taylor? Like, why wouldn't you congratulate her? She's this, she's that. I love her so much. Of course, the reaction that all the girls got was the reaction that they got because, like, the viewers of the show don't know them. The fans don't know them. Like, these people don't have any investment, especially if Taylor's, like, tweeting this out to all of her followers, or like sending this out to all of her followers. Of course her followers are going to be like, how dare you do this to her? We love her, XYZ. I could have told you that was going to happen. So all the girls get really upset at Taylor because they're like, you created a situation for all of us to get this massive hate. And then Taylor apologizes in the group chat and everybody is able to forgive her except Demi. Demi basically starts like a me versus Taylor type of thing in the group, but what she's not realizing is, while she might be a fan favorite, she's not a group favorite, because the girls are like, it's really not that serious. Like, oh, I don't really know what you want me to say to me. They're not really trying to take sides. And yeah, I feel like that's all I really want to talk about in terms of Taylor. I want to move on to the next character. I'm going to move to the couch though, because I need to be comfortable while I finish this. We're going to go from big drama to little drama and talk about the besties, Mayci and Mikayla. This season, we get to know a lot more about both Mayci and Mikayla's backstories. I'm going to start with Mikayla because I felt like last season, she didn't really show up. She was kind of just there. And this season, she's like, I'm earning this check. Like, I'm getting a pay raise next season. All right. Mikayla is the queen of standing on business. She's the queen of hating. She's the queen of, I said what I said and I'm not going to say it again. Her big thing this season is that she hates Whitney. That's not her whole thing, but like, Whitney is trying to get back in mom talk after quitting last year. And Mikayla is basically like, you weren't a real friend to me. I feel like you used me. You never really reciprocated to me. And the foulest thing that Whitney did last season was not showing up to it was two foul things that she did to her two alleged best friends, because it used to be a group of three: Mayci, Mikayla, and Whitney, and then it just went down to Mayci and Mikayla because of how Whitney was acting. Whitney did not show up to the launch event for Macy's vitamin line, Baby Mama, and she only attended Mikayla's birthday party so that she could talk to Mayci. She was acting horribly last season, and it makes sense that Mikayla would be like, no, I don't forgive you. I don't have to. Like, Mayci or Whitney tried to do the whole like, it's not Jesus like of you to not forgive me, and Mayci was like, or Mikayla was like, okay, and I'm not Jesus, so no, I'm not doing that. And I think part of it too is Mikayla healing this season through abuse that she survived. This season we find out that when she was growing up from the ages of 10 to 15, she was subjected to sexual abuse by someone close to her. And she tried to tell her mom about it when she was 15, and her mom didn't believe her. She says that like Halloween is kind of traumatic for her because she tried to tell her on Halloween when she was 15 and her mom didn't believe her. And then she just like left. She moved out of the house. She moved in with her sister. And then by the next year, Halloween, when she was 16, she was pregnant and she gave birth when she was 17. It's a really, to me, like heartbreaking and sad story. And I appreciate her sharing it so much because I think especially with any kind of like insular religious culture where is really allowed to exist and run rampant without being challenged by most of the people in authority and like by the people who are tasked to protect children to say anything about it, to come out and be honest and transparent about having that experience is just so powerful. And she does like kind of like a mock therapy session. I don't think it was I don't think people really like film their therapy sessions for reality shows. Like I think they come up with something new to do if they're going to be filming for a reality show. I just thought it was really powerful to hear her talk about it, talk about the problems that she has with her family, the trust issues that she has, the bodily issues that she's had because of this trauma. I think one thing that I lived for last season was that Mikayla was never wearing makeup. Like she was always just like, they didn't even really introduce her. Like they did not introduce Layla or Mikayla properly. So I was like, who is that black girl? And who is the girl who's never wearing makeup? Like what's going on? But I just loved her because she was always in the background, like giving someone a stank eye. And then this season you learn that like part of the reason for that is because she has like a skin condition that sometimes flares up on her face and sometimes flares up on her body. It depends. And she like says that part of the reason that she thinks she has a skin condition is her body like internalizing a lot of the trauma that she experienced when she was a child, which I 100% believe that the body keeps the score. One thing that is kind of difficult about Mikayla's situation, so her husband Jace, she got pregnant with their baby when she was 16 and he was 25 or 22. I don't know. I don't remember how old he was, but he was significantly older than her and over the age of 18. It's a hard situation. I've seen people talk about it online and talk about it on TikTok. And I think this is one of those few situations where there's kind of nuance to it. One of the few, the very few. I will never take up for a man. And I don't know this man based off of what I see on screen. It's just like, I don't have it in me to tell someone who survived horrific that like this person who's supporting them, who loves them and who cares about them is like just as bad as everybody else. Like I don't have the heart to do that. Granted, I'm like walking on eggshells because I know how I feel in general about situations. And then I also know what they've both said online. So she says that they met because he was friends with he knew someone who lived in the house with her sister and she moved into the house with her sister. And then they had known each other for like a month and then she got pregnant and then they decided to start dating. He says that like, he didn't know that she was 16 because she was living on her own. She wasn't going to school. And so he just assumed that she was probably the same age as the rest of the people who were hanging around the house, like 20s. Me personally, she looked like a child. I'm asking people things about them, like for example, their age, as I get to know them. And then they got married, like when she was like 17. It seems to me like over the years, he has been very supportive of her. He commented on one of somebody made a TikTok about their relationship and he's like, I know it's really bad. Like I genuinely did not know how old she was. And if I had, nothing would have happened between us. It's just like one of those like things. It's like a mistake and you move forward and you know better. It's a sad situation because it's like somebody going from being a survivor of not being believed by the person who's supposed to protect them and then immediately pregnant and with a baby. Like that's a lot to happen to someone before the age of 18. And like I said, I really appreciate her opening up, sharing it, talking about it on screen. And I appreciated their dynamic together. He seemed really supportive of her sharing her experiences on camera, which is like kind of rare with men. They're like, why are you telling people about that? That's so embarrassing. Like, what are people going to think about me? So like, or think about our relationship. So like, I think it's important. Yeah. And I love Mikayla because like getting revenge against Whitney is kind of her story arc for this season. So like, she's mad at Whitney because Whitney was a horrible friend to her. And Whitney decides that they're going to do this like great Mormon bake-off, which is so like conservative trad wife coded, but we'll get into that. Mikayla's like, I'm going to bake sourdough because Whitney baked sourdough. And so they bake basically like the identical sourdoughs that both say CTR on top. I don't know what the CTR means. And I'm not going to repeat it because I'm not trying to indoctrinate you. Whitney ends up getting third place and Mikayla ends up getting second place. And Mikayla's like, I did what I came here to do. Like she's just a hater, which I appreciate. Bring back real hating. She's a hater, one, and she's a true friend too, because she really, really has Mayci's back. I think people who she's like 100% down with, like 100% trusts, loves, cares about, she's ride or die for them. people who have been like iffy and kind of wishy-washy with her, she's going to be iffy and wishy-washy back. And if you've shown her that you can't be trusted, then you can't be trusted. And that is the best case scenario for someone who has survived abuse. Like, to have boundaries and discernment in relationships with people, especially as you get older, and to be able to teach your children to have boundaries and discernment, like, oftentimes can wear away at your ability to tell when someone or something is good for you. And so the fact that she has that kind of conviction in herself now that she's older, I really appreciate, and I enjoyed seeing her on camera. Oh, the last thing that I really wanted to say about Mikayla was that I feel like I don't have the energy for her for like focusing on the weirdness in her relationship with Jace. I think we should more so focus on the fact that Demi was 9 when she met her husband and he was 25. Speaking of besties, her bestie Mayci. I love Mayci. I'm not gonna yonk on too much about it because her husband is MAGA, allegedly. We don't know what she is, but you know, birds of a feather. They do like to flock together. And let's be 100% clear. I know that 90% of the girls on this show are MAGA. We're gonna talk about it. We're going to talk about it very soon. So Mayci, I think she's so pretty. I think she's so funny. Again, I'm not going to praise her too much because I'm pretty sure most of these ladies are MAGA, but whatever. Mayci is bringing that real, like, down home housewives energy to the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And this is the kind of thing that, like, keeps shows like this going, like, gives you a story arc over the course of the season. She has her brand that she's doing launches for. She's writing a book and she's having a dinner to announce that to the ladies. She's invited to host the World Pickleball tournament and she's inviting the ladies on a trip to do that. Like, that's the type of stuff that is the bread and butter of these like friend group based reality television programs, and she's bringing it. She has the World Pickleball event. She invites everybody to Arizona for that. Jen doesn't end up going because she's pregnant, and she also like keeps it real. Like, when Whitney tells everyone that Jen's pregnant and that she told her that she was pregnant right before she came on the trip, everyone's so shocked. And she's like, they're like, I didn't know she was trying to have a baby. And Mayci says, like, why are you surprised? Like, she doesn't protect at all. So if she's not using protection, then she is trying, and she's having sex and she is trying to have a baby, which is so real. Like, people don't acknowledge that enough. Like, if you're not using protection of any sort, then you must want to have a baby because that's what's going to happen. She has that event and you could tell the girls are seething a little. And then later on in the season, like halfway through the season, she invites them all to a dinner to announce that she is writing a book. She got a book deal to talk about her life. Now, I know that journaling is like a big thing in Mormonism, and she has journals from when she was pregnant with her first child. And she's basically, I guess, like writing a memoir because she's had a crazy life. One of the reasons that I enjoy Mayci so much is because in season 1, she was the one who had her foot on Dakota's neck. Okay, she was like, I don't like him. I don't trust him. I see a lot of negative attributes that remind me of my ex-boyfriend, and I don't think that he's good enough for Taylor. And she would say that to his face and to Taylor's face as many times as she could. Once they got pregnant and decided that they were going to try and like work through things for the baby, I think she was like, honestly, rightfully, I think she was like, okay, let me like ease up a little bit. Let me try and see the good in him. But like, to this day, she's like, I don't really with him. Like, he can be enjoyable, he can be fun, but I see how he treats her behind the scenes, and I see that I've heard the things that she's said that he's done to her, and I'm like, yeah, that's very much like my ex, which is how narcissists function. We're not going to get into it because I'm not about calling everybody a narcissist, but like people who are superficially charming to your face, but then demonic behind closed doors. Yeah, that's actually very common with abuse. So that's initially why I enjoyed Mayci in season 1. And in season 2, we kind of get a little bit more into her backstory, which is kind of what I was missing in season 1. I was like, what do you mean you're abusive ex-boyfriend? What's going on? So when she was, I think in high school, she talks about like being groomed by this guy who was a lot older than her. And he was, I think, physically and emotionally. They got out of that relationship, and then she met her next boyfriend when she was in college. And when she was a sophomore in college, she got pregnant with their child. And when she was, I think, 3 months pregnant, he in a car accident, and she found out on Instagram. She was fighting with him over text. He got hit by a car. He's like not responding to her text messages, and then somebody posts on Instagram, rest in peace, to her boyfriend, and she's like, what the fuck? And then she found out that he had passed. So she's pregnant with their child, a sophomore in college, still mentally and emotionally recovering from this abuse. relationship that she was in. I'm sure it was horrendous. Honestly, like out of all the girls, since she's been writing for a long time, like out of all the girls, I think she's probably the one who's the most equipped to write a book. She's the one who I'd be most interested in reading a book from, is how I'll put it. Because like, what a life to have lived and to be here on the other side. Now, I would read a book from Taylor and Miranda if they were going to get into the nitty gritty about the swinging scandal, but that's me because I'm nosy and I like to know. I was like, oh my God, that's so exciting that she's got a book deal. Meanwhile, you cut to Demi, stank face, sitting right next to her, stank face. Just like, she's like, I got a book deal. And Demi is like, everybody else is smiling. Jen gets up to hug her. Congratulations. Yay, Demi. The hater ass energy that was roiling off of her during that scene was so funny. This is also like one of the truth box scenes. They like do this truth box a couple of times in the show, and somebody puts in the truth box, I think Jen is fake. I'm pretty sure it was Layla who, if we're talking about fake, okay. Let me just be clear. I don't put it past her. That is a lone speck of pepper fighting for her life in this group of white women. She could go find black people to be friends with. But we're not talking about Layla yet, but like it's crazy because it's always like the light-skinned biracial black women who would eat in a black group, like who would be the top of the food chain in and amongst black people, who are like fighting for their lives to be the bottom of the food chain and amongst white people. It's so interesting to me. And then the third event, I think, is the Saints and Sinners party that is sponsored by Jay-Z Hair, which is the hair place that Jessi owns, and Baby Mama, which is Mayci's vitamin brand. Yeah, that's Mayci. I love her. I think she's fun, and I think she's funky, and I think she's cute. Next, we are going to talk about Jessi. I've seen a lot of mess on the internet about Jessi, especially since the season has ended. Kind of like the cliffhanger for the season was all about Jessi and her relationship. But Jessi is kind of like the mom of mom talk. For the first half of the season, she really was Demi's sidekick, which like I think Demi thrives when she has a sidekick. She has someone who she can like rely on to be her little, you know, her little like dog. I think Demi thinks that she's Regina George, but actually she's Gretchen Wieners, and she like needs a Karen next to her to like prop her up and make her feel more powerful. And like in actuality, Taylor Frankie Paul is Regina George. Because like the thing about Regina and Gretchen is that they kind of don't like each other, but they just like stay friends and they keep going back and forth. But anyway, we're not talking about Demi. We're talking about Jessi. We're talking about Demi because Jessi was so far up Demi's ass so much of this season. And then like as the season starts to unravel, once they don't have Jen to triangulate against anymore, like once their common enemy is gone, their relationship, the thing that was like gluing them together, really starts to like dissolve, which is sad. It's just like a really weird vibe watching them hang out and watching like Demi just like kind of like be in charge, like so thoroughly in charge of Jessi. So the thing that instigates the fallout between Jessi and Demi is that Taylor alleges that Demi said to Taylor not to go do her hair at Jessi's hair salon because they don't know how to do color and Jessi isn't a good hairstylist. Demi claims that she never said that. The look in her eyes when Taylor exposed that, I'm like, I don't know if I can believe you, mama. It's kind of giving that you said that. And honestly, let's look at the material. Miss Jessi is low-key the queen of exposed tracks. You see Layla's tracks. You see Jen's tracks. You see Kate's tracks. Kate is Chase, Miranda's ex-husband's new girlfriend, who is good friends with Jessi. Why am I seeing everybody's tracks in this show? Why are the tracks always exposed, Jessi? Why can I always see the tracks? Now, Layla, we'll get into Layla later. There's all this conversation about her hair, which, like, I understand that she doesn't want people to talk about her hair too much, but, like, you can't go on TV with your hair looking like that as a black person if you don't want people to talk about it. I'm so sorry to say. So, like, I do believe that Demi was talking shit about Jessi's hair salon because some of those ladies be leaving that hair salon looking crazy. And then they spend the season on television looking crazy while the lady who did their hair is in the next room. And it's like, if my hair looked like this, however many weeks after I got my tracks put in, I would beat ass. I'm watching them do curls, like put curls in these girls' hair at Jessi's salon. And I'm like, where are the curls? Is the iron on? Like, what's going on? The issue that I have with what Demi said is less that she thinks that, and more so that she would say that about her best friend to a third party who she could not trust to keep it to herself. Because if Taylor's going to do anything, it's stir the pot and cause drama. I do have kind of like a conspiracy theory that Demi and Taylor's fallout at the end of the season was like produced because Jen was gone, and so like the person that Demi was going to go against was no longer there. But I do genuinely think that she said that to Taylor about Jessi's salon, and the surprise and shock and betrayal on her face is real because she didn't expect that Taylor was going to bring that into this little like produced fallout that they were having. The last thing that I'll say about Jessi, so like at the end of the season when her relationship with Demi is falling apart and she's feeling kind of lost, Layla goes to Marciano because Jessi is kind of hinting that more happened between Marciano and Demi in Italy than either of them are willing to admit. And at a certain point, they're doing truth boxes at one of their many sleepovers, and they ask her straight, like one of the questions in the truth box is, did anything happen between you and Marciano? And there was like a rumor that they were making out at Tom Tom in LA. And she's like, if I were stupid enough to do something like that, I wouldn't do it out in public. Like, that didn't happen. That's not true. Well, Layla goes to Marciano and she's like, did anything happen between you and Demi? And he's like, well, we were flirting, but not really. And then he's like, but something did happen between me and one of the other girls in the group. And he basically insinuates that him and Jessi had an affair. And that's a big cliffhanger at the end of season 2 to like get you hooked into season 3. I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I buy that him and Jessi had this like huge, wild, crazy affair. First of all, once again, I don't know who the Marciano is, and I refuse to find out, because one thing I'm not going to do is give free clout to a man who stays on the internet fighting with women. That's embarrassing for both me and you, Bama. I remember like watching Kristen Cavallari's, like a clip of Kristen Cavallari's podcast, and if we're going to talk about reality TV people who are MAGA, like we can talk about her. She talked about how a lot of her storylines from The Hills were fabricated. She had a whole fake relationship with Brody Jenner while he had a girlfriend somewhere else. Like, he fake broke up with his girlfriend, fake got into a relationship with Kristen, and then he would just like fake date Kristen and then like hang out with his girlfriend at night or when they weren't filming. The whole thing with Spencer and Heidi fighting all the time and being in an relationship, and Spencer being crazy and like pressing crystals to his palms, like all of that was fake. There were so many things on that show that were completely fabricated. And honestly, like this whole thing with Marciano, I just think it's a little convenient that Jessi is supposed to have had this alleged affair with another person who's on a Hulu reality show that I'm sure must be flopping. Because even as a former fan of, or as a fan of Vanderpump Rules, I don't want to watch these people gyrating on each other in a villa in Italy. Stassi Schroeder is not going to make me want to watch a television show. Look at this. Look at this. Do you think Stassi Schroeder is going to make me want to watch a television show? Watching her fight over fake drama with her husband? Who gives a if he has his sister's name tattooed on him? Maybe she saved him from drowning when she was a baby. Like, I don't care. And then that being like the cliffhanger to lead into season 3, I just am not really buying this whole Jessi had an affair with Marciano thing. It's really giving like when Spencer and Heidi agreed to have like a fake cheating scandal on the Hills so that they could like maintain ratings. Now, getting into Layla, the queen of being seen at the scene of the crime and saying nothing. There's a lot that I could say about Layla that I won't say on the internet because I have decorum and I have a sense of responsibility to my fellow man, and I don't just talk crazy about people on the internet just because I think it's going to get me some attention. A lot of people could think about that. A lot of people could consider shutting the up sometimes. So like what I will say, I think I'll just like talk about her hair at the end because genuinely it makes me sad. It makes me sad when I see women of color or women of color adjacent like Jen in these white spaces genuinely trying to like assimilate as hard as they can, when it's like, if you could just unclench and embrace the fact that you have black ass hair that has to be treated in a black ass manner, then you would look so much better, first of all, and these white men would still want to fuck you. They'd probably want to fuck you even more. But because she wants to be just like all these white women who she grew up around, the white women who raised her, she feels like she has to do all the same steps that they do, even if those steps don't necessarily work for her. And that makes me sad because it's just like not the truth, and it's clearly not working for her. I'm not gonna lie, like I think that she's funny, even though she's under the thumb of white supremacy. As the fact that she's not a Republican, that's enough for me. I think she's funny. Honestly, as soon as I learned that she wasn't a Republican, she skyrocketed to top status for me. She's been knocked down a few pegs because she might not be a Republican, but she is scary. Like she is not ready to stand up for nobody, including herself. And I also don't have it in me to like hate on a Black woman for doing what she can to survive in an environment like this. Like people on the internet are really mean to her, and really it's sad because like you can't win when you're a person like Layla, because like the Black people are like, you look crazy on TV, why do you look like that? And then the white people are like, you're just a follower, you'll just do whatever these girls say. Like she can't win, which is why I think she should unclench her butt cheeks and go to a Black hairstylist. But again, we'll talk about that a little bit more later. She might be a follower, like she 100% is a follower, but she's a smart one, and I'm not going to fault a Black woman for going where she knows she is safe in an environment like this. When Demi, the fan favorite, seemed to be on top, she was all aligned with Demi and Jessi, doing whatever they wanted, writing in that she thinks Jen is fake, like being their little lapdog. But then when it became clear that Demi was acting unhinged and like the other girls in the group except for Whitney were like no longer going to be on her side, she swings over to the other side and she's like, I'm here for you, Taylor. Like I will ride for you, even though she didn't, but she told her the tea. She spilled the tea when the time came. Like Layla is here for her check. Okay, she is a production shill. She doesn't do it well. She's not seasoned like my girl Whitney from Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. It's very much Coco Jones, and you would do it too for a check. Like that's the energy that she brings to the show. She will say the lines, do the tasks, do whatever she needs to do to keep the producers on her side, so she doesn't do a shit edit like Demi might, and like and Whitney got last season. That being said, I do think that Pregnancy Roulette was like a weird way for them to do their like Walgreens product placement or whatever, and it was especially heartbreaking to watch Demi like sobbing uncontrollably when she picked one of the positive pregnancy tests, and she was like, it can't be me, like I never get positive tests. Like that was sad, and I feel for her. And the fact that like Mikayla and Mayci went into Demi's room to like talk to her after that happened, but Layla didn't apologize to her when she was sobbing uncontrollably. Like she's scary. She is a Bambi ass bitch. She's really like afraid when anything is not like absolutely smooth sailing. And once again, I don't have it in me to fault a Black woman just trying to survive in a space like this. One thing that I will say is that 1-2 punch of white supremacy and patriarchy will have the girls out here looking crazy. Jen married to that, the evil things that I could say about that man that I will refrain from saying. Jen married to that living ghoul. And Layla on my television screen crying over Cam, who looks like the Deliverance kid all grown up. He looks like a leather boot made a wish to be a human being. And she, a 10, a 12, she is on television crying over the Deliverance kid. Inbreeding will do you crazy. Inbreeding will do you crazy. He looks like he has cousin parent, and she's on my television screen crying about him. She is on my television screen crying about him. This is really like a dynamic that I don't think I see in other like religious denominations. Like these women will be sobbing over the most gutter snipe looking ass men. Meanwhile, they're 12s. I literally only see it with Mormons. I don't see it with other evangelical Christians, really. If you do, let me know of examples in the comments down below. You don't see like a hideous Muslim man with the baddest woman. Like they are on the same level. Why? What is that? What is that? And I think it's like the added layer of like being the only Black person in a space like this, and then also like deep entrenched misogyny of Mormonism. Like you need a husband to go to Mormon heaven, so like they'll just take whatever because you need a husband. I think it's those two things working together, but damn, was that man difficult to look at. And they've broken up, which good for her. I'll also say the Black one being the only one who hasn't been in the temple. She hasn't gotten a temple recommend, and she hasn't made it through the temple. Interesting. Mormonism is never beating those racism allegations, okay? I mean, she is weak. Like she has a very like weak personality and a very like thin sense of self. Like most of these women have. A lot of their self-worth, a lot of their self-esteem comes exclusively from external validation. And if that external validation isn't there, or if they've internalized too much negative self-talk from their families and they're not able to access that, and then they just kind of like go with the tide. Like the main example for me was when Layla was fine taking that blunt out of that lady's cooter at the burlesque show in New Orleans. She took a little puff, and then it was only when everybody else was like, ew, you took it out of her coochie. What if she has a yeast infection? What if she has an STI? Ew, ew, ew. It's only when all the white women around her were like, that's so nasty. You took a puff of a blunt from a black lady's cooter, that she was like, oh my God, why did I do that? Cut it out of the show. I don't ever want to see that again. Oh. He thinks the lady doth protest too much. I think Layla could be a cool fucking person if she would let herself be black. Now, this is going to be me dipping my toe into the hair discourse. I don't think she's so far gone, you know, because at least she's not a Trump voter. Like she has said online that she didn't vote for him. If we can believe her, sure. I don't know, but sure. She's not a Trump voter. So she's not in the sunken place. But she's on the edge looking in like, looks kind of nice in there. Like, I cannot imagine wanting to be white so bad that I go around looking crazy. I understand she has a set of circumstances that she's coming from, that she's bringing into the world. I'm very sensitive to all of that, but I need her to get a different hairdresser. Her, like, hair without extensions is so damaged. Even if she doesn't want to get a new hairdresser because she loves Jessi so much, ask Jessi if she can install a wig. The reason the tracks are sticking out like that is because the hair follicles are hanging on for dear life. Shave your head and start wearing wigs. If you're not going to take care of your hair, but you still want it to look like these white women's hair, like it can. You just need to give it some time to breathe. You just need to leave it alone for a little bit. Like her sister's hair is beautiful. Now, mind you, me and my sister have completely different hair. Like my sister is maybe like a 3B, 4A texture, and mine is like a 4Z, 4Q. Like my hair is very coarse. So I understand that like siblings can have very different hair textures, but like I don't do the things to my hair that my sister does to her hair just because my sister does it. I wasn't growing up around white people like going and getting hair extensions. I would never get a fucking tape-in hair extension because my hair is already wild the way that it is. Why would I add more problems? And then when my hair is damaged, that's a sign to me to like give it a breather and just let it heal. But she's refusing to do that, and it's like it makes me really sad in a way because it feels like this is the one thing that can keep me close to whiteness, and if I let go of it for even 10 seconds, then I just will drown. Like I won't survive. And that's not the truth. There's plenty of biracial baddies who date white men whose hair is popping all the time. Case in point, Zendaya. Now, she might not have Zendaya money, but she be getting, 6 figures for these brand deals? She could have Zendaya money, like, especially to spend on her hair. It's just, we don't have to belabor the point. I'm just saying, I want better for her, but she has to want better for her. And I'm really not going to clock into Layla as a person on this show until she goes and gets a wig installed, or she's like, I'm on my healthy hair journey. We are getting to the last 2 members of the group. Is going to be Whitney and Demi. Whitney, I don't buy it. Whitney is giving very much Zach Affleck on this season. I don't buy it. I see straight through her attempts for a redemption arc. She very plainly says, can we have a new villain? Like she's clearly walking on eggshells because she's so nervous about how poorly she was received last season and all the hate that she got from fans last season. And like I've said, I've kind of hinted on this and I'm going to expand on it in a little bit. Mormonism, at least from my observation, very much heavily, like for your sense of self, you heavily rely on external validation, whether that be from your bishops at the church or even just like to be able to go and worship the way that you like would need to. You have to get a temple recommend. To get married in the temple, you have to get recommended. Like you have to be in good standing and be considered quote unquote worthy. Validation is huge, and she's the most Mormon out of them all. You can tell the outfits that she wears. She probably still wears her garments. I don't think I've ever seen her in anything on the show that would even be considered risque. So like all of her outfits are like garment appropriate. Her whole story arc from for the first half of the season is that she's pregnant with this baby. And like through Whitney, we get a lot of the most insidious conservative trad wife propaganda. Like she doesn't say that that motherhood is her highest purpose. She says that motherhood is a woman's highest purpose. And she's so glad that she's able to access it now. She's asking people if they believe that the Book of Mormon is true. And her idea to do the Great Mormon Bake Off, like she is the one who I think would still be going around trying to convert people after her mission. She drinks the Kool-Aid and she is fine with the way that the church functions for the most part. Like she has not said anything about like disliking the church the way that a lot of the other ladies have talked about not liking the patriarchy in the church. Like I'm sure she's a Trumpster. I don't like her. Like there's something about her that just rubs me the wrong way. She seems very much like from the Lizzie McGuire movie when the teacher's like, I think you're a brown noser with a hidden agenda. I think she's a brown noser with a hidden agenda. And it wasn't even hidden because she said multiple times what her agenda was. Her agenda was to get back into mom talk and to not be the villain. I just want you to know that I see right through you, mama. She might have successfully gotten back into mom talk, but she did that by holding her tongue and never saying what her actual opinion was, because if she had been herself, they never would have let her back in because she would have been being a bitch the whole season. Every confessional when Demi is saying something wild, she's like, I was thinking that. I just didn't want to say it because I want to be let back into mom talk. It feels like she's really calculated in a lot of the support that she gives people. It's almost like she's waiting until people are isolated and like this wounded animal so that she can go over and support them. And then they'll like support her bid to get back into mom talk. She does it with Jen. She does it with Miranda. She does it with Demi. Like when people are isolated is when she is like trying to get on their good side. And then when they're fine, she's fine. She's like, they can't really get me anything. Like last season, she threw one of those tantrums where she expected that everybody was going to run after her and be like, oh, what's wrong, baby? And no one did it. And now she's just like crawling back and trying her best. I would like to see, will the real Whitney Levitt please stand up? Like, I would like to see the real her again, because the real her is actually quite entertaining. Like it's unhinged and I think she's really weird, but there's just like something that's not right about her. It's like she can't feel empathy for anybody. Mayci, she's like trying to get back to being friends with Mayci and Mikayla. Mikayla's not letting her in because she sees right through it. Like it's clearly very calculated. I'm gonna let you be my friend again just so you can do the same shit to me again immediately. No, I'm not doing that. But Mayci is like, well, do you regret not coming to my baby mama launch last year? That really hurt me. And she's like, no, I don't, because it told me how I could fix our relationship. And Macy's like, what? You don't regret doing something that really hurt me? Like, what are you talking about? It's like she's not able to take anything outside of her head and see it from the other person's perspective. She can't understand at all why Mikayla would be mad at her when you stop talking to her. You're supposedly best friends. It used to be the three of you. You randomly stopped talking to her because other people were mad at you. And then the only reason you went to her birthday party was because you wanted to talk to somebody else. I would be fucking pissed too. I would be like, you're not a real friend. And then you never apologize for it. Not really, because a real apology is when you say, I'm sorry. I can't believe you take ownership over what you did and then you don't expect anything back. Every time Whitney apologized to Mikayla, she was expecting her to immediately be like, that's okay, and forgive her and everything to be fine. And when she didn't do that, she would get so mad. And that's when Mikayla would be like, well, exactly, like this is exactly the person that I knew you to be. So I think I don't like Whitney. I think I hate her even more than I did last season. I think she's a sniveling sycophant who's hiding behind a bitch who's actually brave enough to stand up in what she thinks and what she believes. And let's hope that like the fan backlash doesn't cause Demi to like stop being honest and start being fake the way that Whitney is. Because the thing about some of these like fabricated storylines, or the fact that I think some of these storylines are fabricated, is like when you agree to go into a fabricated storyline, you can at least like know within yourself, like that's not real. Like these people hate me based off of something that's not real. For Whitney, I think she was just being herself last season and people hated her. Unfortunately, yourself is very interesting. Yourself is just also very hateable. Like my favorite thing about her is her husband, and he's a man. And a cheater. That's embarrassing. Finally, we're going to talk about Demi. And boy, do I have a lot of thoughts about Demi Engman. First of all, she's a Trumper. And get that out of the way immediately. I don't fuck with her. I think she's weird. I saw some like weird shit that she liked on Instagram. I'm not a Demi fan. That being said, I feel like I understand her very well because she's a Leo. I think Demi is the nucleus of the rot that's at the center of this season of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And I think she really embodies what a lot of what is uncomfortable about the show this season and what made it hard to watch. Not just because of like the things that she does on screen, but also because of just who she is and like what she represents. So one thing I want to start by pointing out is that people are talking about her saying that she's a fan favorite. She didn't say it's no secret that I was a fan favorite. She said it's no surprise that I was a fan favorite, which are two very different things. It being no secret is like, well, obviously everybody knows I was a fan favorite. No surprise is like, well, yeah, I planned it that way. I think she came into season 1 of the show with a very curated image of herself as this modern day Mormon mom who's positive and feminist and about women supporting women and not doesn't pull any punches and not afraid to tell the truth and is a loyal friend, when in reality she's a lot more conservative than she wants to like put out to people. Even as like conservatism is on the rise across the globe, like there's something that's just like not cool about being a stickler, like Whitney. It's just like not cool. And second of all, she's a lot more insecure than she wants to put out into the world, because throughout the season she's like, I was going through this and this and this and just like nobody gives a fuck about me. She had curated this image to be a quote unquote fan favorite, but it didn't get her the shine that she expected. Like she didn't get as much like press and buzz as she expected. So she came into this season trying to get in really wherever she could. So since Whitney had vacated the villain space, she kind of like slid into it, I think unbeknownst to her. Like I don't think she went into it being like, I'm gonna be the villain, but I think she went into it being just like wanting to be the main bitch, and the girl who wants to be the main bitch, the baddest, always ends up being the villain. That's what happens with Lisa Barlow. That's what happened with Christine on Selling Sunset. That's what happens with Kenya Moore on Real Housewives of Atlanta. Whenever you want to be the center of attention so badly, it's off-putting to people. There's just something about it that just feels kind of uncanny, and people don't really like that, especially when it's supposed to be reality television. For Taylor, it's natural. She just is that. She just like shows up and is who she is. People find her fun to watch. But with Demi, it's very laborious. Like you can tell she sits up at night thinking about the fact that she's not making as much money as the other girls, the fact that she's not getting as many comments, she's not getting as many likes, she's not getting the same amount of brand deals. The show didn't do the same thing for her that it seemed to do for everybody else. She was trying to get number one girl in the group status, a la Jax from Vanderpump Rules, and she basically decided that in order to do it, she would have to take out one of two people, and that was either Jen or Taylor. Jen was easier to go after because she's like under the thumb of this horrible man. And Taylor is kind of untouchable because she is technically the leader of Mom Talk. And she's like a fan favorite, like actually an organic fan favorite. And the other thing is that she's like very, like I said, she's very effortless. And with Demi, it's very effortful. So it's like, it was almost like she was never going to really be able to replace her. Meanwhile, Jen is closer to being someone who Demi can replace. But there's also something that's just like likable about Jen that isn't about Demi. Like Demi is almost like a grown-up princess from Powerpuff Girls. Meanwhile, Jen is like Trixie Tang from Fairly Odd Parents. Like there's just something you don't know why people like her, but people just do. All being said, Demi is a bitch, but she's often right. Like if you listen to the things that she's saying, she's a bitch about it and the way that she says it and the way that she's so adamant, and she won't like just like go with the flow the way all these other women are willing to. I think everybody else in the cast is a mutable sign except Whitney, who's a Taurus, because Layla's a Pisces, Mikayla's a Pisces, Macy's a Pisces, Jen is a Gemini, Taylor is a Gemini, and then Whitney is a Taurus. Oh, and Jessi's a Gemini too. And then Miranda is also a Taurus. So like Whitney and Miranda are the only ones who are not mutable signs. These are very go with the flow people. We might still feel a way about it, but I'm just going to pretend like I'm over it because that's the best for the group. Even if that means I'm going to be stomping around angry and annoyed for however many hours, I'm going to stomp around and be obviously angry and annoyed, but then I'll get over it in my own time. Meanwhile, Demi is like, no, we need to address this right now. We have to fix it. And if we can't fix it, then we have to get rid of the person who's causing all the problems. So the things that she's saying, she complains a lot in the show that people are flippant about the things that really matter to her. Like when something upsets her, nobody gives a but when something upsets like Taylor or something upsets Jen, everybody all of a sudden cares. Like everybody is always saying, well, Taylor's going through a lot. Taylor's going through this. Taylor's going through that to excuse her behavior. Meanwhile, Demi doesn't really get the same types of excuses. Like this is a woman who's been trying to have a baby for years, who knows how many hormones she's been on, rounds of IVF, the psychological toll that trying to have a baby takes on you when it's like not working. And her saying like she really just wants it to happen with someone who she is in love with. If you really actually gave a fuck about that person, or if you at least were thinking beyond the producers want to do this Walgreens tie-in, maybe somebody could cut their finger and then you have to go get a bunch of band-aids and then they use Walgreens brand band-aids. Like it doesn't have to be pregnancy tests, but to do a pregnancy roulette with a person who you know to have fertility issues in the room is so insensitive. And it is an example of nobody giving a fuck about the things that matter to me. The other thing, like Jen does lie. I do think that there are reasons behind her lies, but she does tell her friends one thing and her partner another thing. I don't think that that's false. It was Zach who started that train of thought, but Demi ran with it. It's not right for Demi to bring the things that Jen is saying to her man and be like, well, this is what she said about you. And then go to Jen and be like, well, why would he say that? Why would you say that if this is what he said actually happened? I don't think that's right, because who's your real friend in this situation? Like Jen does lie all the time. It's very hard for me to understand, to reconcile who Jen shows up as on social media with who she is on this show. That's the parasocial thing. Like we're never going to know these people really, but with her, it's particularly hard because like the two personas to me are so diametrically opposed. Another thing, Taylor is chaotic and she is crazy. Like she does lash out erratically and not take into account how things that she says and does will affect others, especially them being on such a public stage, because like she might be someone who gets over things quickly, but that doesn't mean that everybody else is able to get over things quickly and just like swallow the harmful thing that was just said to them or about them or the like fallout from it. Demi is like, well, she didn't think about what revealing the soft swinging thing was going to do to other people in the group. Like people were going up to her stepkids at school and being like, oh, is your mom a swinger? Because their mom was in Mom Talk. And it's like, you have to think about stuff like that before you do these things. But Taylor doesn't do that. And Taylor does use I'm going through a lot as an excuse often. And people kind of just accept it in a way that they don't for other people in the group. Even when Jen was like literally suicidal and pregnant, everyone was like, well, she should have showed up. Well, she should have showed up to this anyway. And I don't know, that just shows kind of like bad integrity on her part. Like they don't excuse anybody else in the group the way that they excuse Taylor. And it's because Taylor is the leader. That's not the part that Demi acknowledges because she doesn't like to accept that she's being ran by someone else. But like she is. Taylor started Mock Talk. You will never catch me riding for a Trumpster. So I'm never going to say that Demi is my girl because she's honestly the biggest hypocrite in the group, in my opinion. Like to be this alleged like sex positive person and then you're liking like anti-trans and anti-queer shit memes on Instagram, like it's all tied together. Policing people's sexuality and gender identity is all wrapped up in policing people's sexual behavior. Even though white women are at the top of the totem pole in terms of gender and sexual minorities, that cisgender straight white women are at the top of that totem pole. Once people who are underneath them are oppressed based off of their gender, their sexuality, their presentation, their reproductive choices, all of that, it's going to migrate its way up to them. Like it's all the same totem pole. If the bottom catches on fire, the top is going to catch on fire eventually. She can be right, and I can acknowledge that she's right a lot of the time, but she's also a hypocrite. The one thing that I can say that's good about this season of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is that if season 1 brought thousands or hundreds of thousands of converts to the Mormon church, I'm not sure that season 2 is going to bring that many, even close to them. In fact, I think it's probably doing the exact opposite. Like, it's probably a part of people's deconstruction pipeline. Because it is difficult to watch these women attempt to carry the crushing weight of being the breadwinners of their families, juggling single motherhood, managing the shame that comes with being a woman who is raised in a hyper religious, very patriarchal environment, and also trying to maintain their faith while embracing this like modern Mormon womanhood that seems antithetical to that very faith. That's hard to watch, but it's difficult to see much that's aspirational about their lives as we realize that this is everything that they're juggling. And it's probably hard for modern Mormon women, especially those who want to have their feminist adjacent women empowerment cake and eat it too. If it is as hard for them to live through and hold and carry as it looks, it's equally as hard as a viewer to watch it, especially if you're a viewer like me with empathy and like progressive values. So yeah, that's all I can say about The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I don't want my camera storage to fill up again, so I'm gonna stop yapping. But what I will say is, if you like me or anything that I said today, please consider subscribing to this channel. Then you will know when I put out new videos. I talk about anything I want to. Oftentimes that is pop culture, so books, TV, movies. If you liked this video, please give it a like down below. That does actually really help me to find other people who be interested in my content. And finally, if you watch this show, please comment down below anything that you thought about what I said or what you thought about this season. Was it just as hard for you to watch as it was for me? Did it seem just as artificial to you as it seemed to me? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm really excited to have a little conversation with you. That's all I'm going to say right now. And I will catch you in the next one. Bye!